So we start with our Shanti mantra and the prayer. Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha Harihi Om. Om Sahana Bhavatu Sahanau Bhunaktu Sahaviryam Karavavahai Tejasvinavadhetamastu ma Vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om Tat Sat. So looks like there are no questions for today. I had kept a topic in mind. The different codes of conduct, the different spiritual practices, especially the cultural side of the spiritual practice, right? Or a culture that is tuned to helping us develop in a spiritual direction. A culture that is in every way of life, and a culture that is tuned in every aspect to enhance our inner purity and to facilitate a progressive freedom from karma and klesha. Karma, the cycle of action, cause, effect, action, reaction, enjoyment of the result, again attachment to action and result. So the cycle, that is karma. Klesha is the different pain causing afflictions like ego likes, dislikes, etc. Right? So when we take a human birth, we have an unique ability to have a choice over what we want to do. We have an ability to do or not to do, and to have an identity or an understanding of the self concept, in a way that is independent of experiences, right? That is independent of your accessories like body, status, etc. So a kind of and also an ability for metacognition, that how we are able to analyze and understand how we are thinking, how we are feeling, what we are feeling, why we are feeling the what we are feeling. So the fundamental questions of life, all those things are possible only for a human being. So the sages and saints and the evolved enlightened beings who have lived amongst us over a period of time have given us certain values, and there has been a divine intervention from time to time to teach the humans the path of dharma, the path to moksha, right? Yada yada hi dharmasya glanir bharata abhyuttanam adharmasya tadatmanam sujamyaham. Bhagavad Gita. Whenever there is a dip in the functioning, collective functioning efficiency of dharma, there is a dip in the standards of dharma in the society, and when adharma's hand becomes more stronger than the collective force of dharma, there is a divine intervention and there is a restoration of dharma. Bhagavad Gita. And we have a lot of Puranas and Itihasas as a thing. And also, if you see history in any society, whenever the virtue quotient of a society goes down beyond a point, immediately there is an intervention, and system bounces back, and some kind of a functional level of virtue is restored. not only in the Vedic culture, in the Indian culture, but in every culture, in every society in the world, there are certain eternal values that are common to all of us, certain fundamental values that we cherish as human beings. That gives us the intrinsic sense of dharma, right? It is not simply reward and punishment. If I do this, I will be considered good by others. If I don't do this, I will be considered bad by others. Reward and punishment based dharma, I'm not talking about that even a dog has. Okay, so a dog knows when it steals a cookie, or when it raids the fridge or something, the dog knows. And they show a lot of videos I've seen where the dog looks guilty, and the animals blame each other also. There are 2 3 pets in a house, one pet blames another pet. So this kind of things I have seen, they acquire a lot of apparently human characteristics. But the concept of virtue is different. It is not simply based on reward and punishment, because historically we have seen people who are very virtuous have suffered a lot, especially in Kali Yuga, especially after the Mughal invasion, during the Christian Inquisition, during all those things. You have a huge number of people, entire society is wiped out, full of huge number of virtuous people wiped out. It seems there is during the invasion of Tipu Sultan in the Travancore in Kerala, they used to chop the heads of Brahmins and make a mountain of the Brahmin skulls, you know, the heads, and make a mockery. That the Islamic invaders have done this for many centuries. This Ghazni, Gori, and all those fellows, who are, so whenever they win, they do this, and plundering and all that. Yeah. So a lot of virtuous people get affected, and they are tempted to leave the path of virtue and things like that. But they resisted. There doesn't seem to be any reward for virtue. There is one pujari in one village temple, day in and day out, he is doing puja there for the devata. He is so poor, he doesn't have more than 2 or 3 sets of dhoti. They don't have a proper 2 or 3 times meal. There is no money to pay the school fees for the children. And you see a lot of adharmic people in the same village living very prosperously. But still, this priest sticks to his job, sticks to his dharma, and maintains his dharma for the sake of some kind of a virtue which doesn't seem to pay him at all. We have seen this. This commitment to virtue beyond the scope of reward and punishment, virtue for its own sake, dharma for its own sake. That is why dharma is a purushartha. Dharma has an intrinsic value, right? Just like how wealth has an intrinsic value, you would like to be rich, you would like to be prosperous. Nobody has to tell you. That's very easy to understand. Kama, desire, you would like to enjoy a pleasure. If something is pleasurable, you would like to repeat that experience. You would like to enhance the quality of a pleasurable experience. You would like to be happy. That's very fundamental. Everybody understands. Animals also understand, right? So prosperity, animals may not understand, but they understand security. They feel secure. They would like to feel secure. That's why a bird builds its nest. With a great difficulty, it builds its nest during the mating season, before the mating season, and when the before the eggs are going to come, it has to keep the nest ready. So that is artha. It is coming in the form of self-preservation and security, and an extension of that becomes accumulation of wealth by human beings. That's an extension of that. So artha, this to everybody understand, but a bit more than that is dharma, virtue. Not everybody understands. The refined among us, among the humans who have crossed a certain level of refinement, who have more sattva in their system, they are able to appreciate with dharma for its own sake. So virtue becomes virtue itself, becomes an end, a goal, right? So now those kind of people are becoming less and less as Kali Yuga progresses. The current age of darkness, as it keeps progressing, this proportion of the people who are able to live up to virtue as a goal, who are able to appreciate virtue as its own purpose, then that proportion of those people is going to become less and less. And the more, and as it becomes less and less, the more difficult it is going to be for the next generation to live up to virtue. Of course, there is a certain component of past samskara. So with what samskara a person is born as a result of the past life actions and whatever is the virtue that is practiced in past life, so that comes, a person is born with that. What we see in Daivi Sampat, Asuri Sampat, the 16th chapter Bhagavad Gita. Sorry. So in that, it's by birth actually. Most of the intrinsic qualities are by birth, and it is very difficult to overcome that and get to the next step. Even if they are able to, able to evolve, resist their inborn negative qualities and evolve even a little bit, just a bit of gain in virtue, that's a great achievement in this life, right? So in time, it is going to get more and more difficult. So as human beings, we have this possibility of appreciating virtue for its own sake, appreciating dharma as a goal by itself. That is very unique to human beings. And to compromise one's artha and kama, to compromise one's security and pleasure, to compromise one's level of personal comfort for the sake of dharma, it's also very intrinsic to human being. But it is sometimes programmed in the animals. There is, for the sake of preservation of a species, like in the deers and all that, when there is a predator like a leopard or a cheetah, generally to save the cubs, the mother deer distracts uh, to save the calves, the mother deer distracts the tiger and makes itself vulnerable, right? That is programmed. It is not living up to virtue like how we do, like a soldier sacrificing in the war, or a person performing his kula dharma, his family dharma, and his commitment to the culture and the and the sampradaya over and above his personal comfort and safety, right? So all those things are very unique to human beings, and this, one may ask, as it becomes difficult, the standards of value keeps changing. So in Kali Yuga, as this becomes more and more, the less and less people come, and the reward for dharma in terms of prosperity and pleasure, that becomes a yardstick for the value of a value. A value like speaking truth, right? For example, a value like non-violence, for example, it has an intrinsic value, right? So the intrinsic value of a dharma, of a virtue, starts to get determined by how much of wealth, success, name, fame, and pleasure it produces. Right? It's like a teenage boy who does a brave act. So there was a small child who fell into in one country, Western country, one small child fell into a huge bore well. This is all. Every time there is some child falling into a huge bore well, and then people are struggling and rescuing the child. I don't know. It has been going on for some time. Every other day, I keep hearing a news about some child which fell into a water or some kind of a bore well. Right? I don't know why people cannot close it. There have been so many accidents. There is no standard operating procedure to keep it safe from children and animals falling inside it. It keeps happening again and again. So that is like very, doesn't seem to be very intelligent, but somehow it happens. And one small child fell inside. They tried all kinds of things to bring it out, but they could not bring the child out because they could not grab the baby and bring him out. So a 15-year-old boy volunteered to go in and pick it. So they tied the boy in a nylon rope and then they lowered him. He's a thin boy, so they lowered him into the well and he grabbed that baby and they pulled him out and he came out with the baby. So he became the village hero. Right? Now he is a local hero, right? So he will become very popular. People will appreciate him. All the girls will start liking him, and then it's like a. Uh, uh, so then, probably more boys will come forward to go out of the comfort zone in order to do something virtuous to be a hero. So he becomes a very inspiring figure. But this is something that celebrating a hero is something that immediately appeals to the instinctive mind that has not woken up to dharma. Right? So it should not be required because a person is a hero. He becomes very popular and everybody appreciates him. A lot of young people get inspired to become a hero. That's how people go and join the army. So there is absolutely no motivation. There is no reward. What if you join the army, you're going to get killed. Otherwise, or you have a good, respectable life. But you are there ready to die for the country. That's why you go. Right? It's not. It doesn't seem to be a very smart thing to do. From a normal point of view, you can get paid much more by doing a business, uh, and you can enjoy all the pleasure, be comfortable. You don't have to eat that stupid dry bread in the middle of a forest with mosquito bites in minus 20 degrees Celsius. All this is not required. But then the person is able to do that. There is that inspiration towards a heroism, towards doing something great and virtuous. That's something everybody understands. There are more difficult things, but the inspiration comes when in a society, in a culture, there is a celebration of heroism. There is a celebration of virtuous people. There is a high respect for virtuous people, right? So that shows the nature and the refinement of a society. So, like in the case of that boy, that heroic boy who rescued the child, now because he's becoming a popular teenager, all the other teenagers are motivated. Now, is that the right motivation? Okay, that is an immature rajasic level of motivation. It's better than nothing, but as an individual, we will have to evolve from that and come to a point where the virtue is valuable by itself, not because it makes me popular, not because it gets me more money, not because it gets me a medal, not because it is. These things are helpful. These things are absolutely necessary in order to sustain the virtues in a society, in the collective level. But I'm talking about the individual level. At the individual level, the motivation, ideally, the sattvic motivation and commitment for dharma is supposed to come by itself. The dharma by itself should be valued. That itself is a goal. What I think it is in Kant or somebody says categorical imperative. So truth has its own. But when you compromise the dharma, you feel a little, if you have grown up with some kind of value for the fundamental values, human values, these eternal values, it gives you a kind of a guilt when you don't follow it, right? So when you flout dharma, when you compromise dharma, you feel guilt, you don't feel comfortable, right? Every time you hurt an innocent creature, you're supposed to feel uncomfortable. There was a very saintly person called Kripananda Varyar. He used to give a lot of devotional discourses and all that. He's very famous in South India, Tamil Nadu. He passed away, but when I was a kid, I have seen him. A very sweet, kind of a cute and very sweet person, and very saintly. He has inspired millions of people to lead pious lives. So somebody went and asked him, Swami, what is who is a vegetarian? Who is a non-vegetarian? Saivam, Asaivam. Right. So he said, a small baby, a lamb is hurt, Aatukutti, the lamb is hurt and it's bleeding. It's vulnerable. When you look at it, if you get water in your mouth, if you salivate, you are a non-vegetarian. If you get water in your eyes, you are vegetarian. So such a beautiful explanation. So the intrinsic dharma of a person, the most natural commitment in a person, the dharma of a person, the nature of a person, the programming, the strongest kind of programming is very visible. Sometimes I have seen even in a tiger once hunts a deer, and then somehow a baby deer is born during the attack. It doesn't hurt the baby deer. It sees it completely vulnerable. It doesn't eat the baby deer. It kind of keeps it safe and then waits for it to get ready and become able to move by itself. It doesn't hurt the baby deer. It was wonderful. I was so surprised. So animals, even in animals, sometimes this comes up. This instinctive, that energy of love comes up, and they are somehow sensitive to certain subtle aspects in nature. They are somehow sensitive to a very intrinsic harmony in nature. That harmony drives them. The intrinsic harmony in nature drives them. That calf of the deer is not supposed to die. The tiger knows it should not hurt it. Right? So in tune with nature. So if that is the case, prakrita, there is a intrinsic dharma in the prakriti, in the nature. So if a person is completely natural, totally natural, they will be in tune with their dharma. So if that person is naturally a non-vegetarian, it's okay to be a non-vegetarian, to be a meat eater, like this person said. But if one gets water in the eyes, that means compassion is more intrinsic in you. And non-violence is more intrinsic in you than exploiting a vulnerable creature to fill your belly, right? So in that case, it becomes very important to not compromise that instinctive commitment for compassion. It is very important not to compromise and that make oneself hardened. It is important not to numb oneself to one's natural compassion in the heart. It is important not to numb oneself with all the arguments like, oh, we need protein, it's part of life, life feeds on life. Because these logical arguments we have in so many angles. Logic is a double-edged sword. It can work that way and this way. Logic can support a commitment. Logic can dismiss a commitment. Logic can says the same thing. Logic can support and also dismiss. So I have always said again and again in our discussion that logical analysis should follow the Shraddha, should be within the framework set by the most, by one's deepest commitment. The logic should serve Shraddha. The logic should not question Shraddha. If you keep on questioning every kind of Shraddha, you will not end up anywhere. What Bhagavad Gita says as Sanshayatma Vinashyati. The one who is constantly doubting this and doubting that and doubting this and doubting that will end up nowhere. Yeah. So this instinctive commitment to dharma and an inborn, I will put it as an inborn or a cultivated natural adoration and respect for a value for a eternal value like truth, non-violence, and things like that, and to preserving the for preserving the Veda, to protect the cow, protect the weak, and to be caring and loving, and things like this. These are all, and not to accumulate another person's, not to steal another person's wealth, not to unfairly exploit an opportunity, and to try to have a fair play even when I have an advantage, and things like that. Not to bully the weak. These are all certain simple things. But by compromising this virtue, one can see very obviously one can be more successful. One can experience more wealth, more dominance, more power, more name and fame, and enjoy more pleasures by compromising virtue in a short term. Quick success, quick pleasure, quick dominance, quick name and fame. All these things can be obtained by compromising virtue. Absolutely. There is no doubt about it. But while doing that, when one doesn't feel comfortable with oneself, it is very important to, if you are, it is very important to prioritize virtue over one's personal gratification. If one is not comfortable while compromising a declared virtue, it is important to prioritize virtue over personal gratification, egoistic gratification over wealth and pleasure, name and fame, etc. Right? So that is a choice that every human being can make at every moment in time, in every opportunity where there is a choice over action. Kartum, akartum, anyata kartum, I can do, I need not do, I can do something else. When we have a choice, it is very important to be sensitive to this inner voice. Now, why I started this topic is, as virtue, collective virtue deteriorates in a society, there are going to be questions about the value of the values themselves. The eternal values themselves will start becoming questionable and start losing its luster. I know one Eastern European country, it came out of communist regime, and then it was up for grabs. Everything in the country for up for grabs, for whoever could grab anything they want based on their personal domination circle and everything. So there was a complete collapse of values. Already the communist regime destroyed the religion in the country, made a lot of people not very friendly with whatever is the popular religion in that country, Orthodox Christianity. So they killed a lot of priests, they killed a lot of monks, and they made a live hell for religious people. So, and a lot of youth people, the parents who became parents, those who became parents at the time of the revolution, I heard from them personally. Those who became parents at the time of revolution, I heard from the children that there was a complete collapse of values in a huge section of population. So nobody knows what they are living for anymore. That I am continuing to see more and more happening in many urban areas. Right? First of all, the spiritual sensitivity has come down. There is no intensity in prana. People don't have much virya because the food is gone. The quality of the food has gone down. Because of that, there is very less virya. And there is no anushtanam, everyday spiritual practices like japa, etc. And because of that, there is no gathering of the mind together and the senses. And because of that, another, again, loss of virya. So because of that, the faculty of fundamental judgment, the faculty of fundamental judgment, what is now internationally referred to as spiritual quotient, SQ. You go online and Google this, do a search for the spiritual quotient and spiritual intelligence. SQSI, it is called, okay? Like how we have IQ, intellectual quotient, and you have EQ, emotional quotient. Similarly, we have spiritual quotient. Right? There are some tests for that. You can take it up, check it up. Right? So they're trying to understand it. The psychology and the philosophers, they're trying to understand it and put together. It's still evolving in the Western modern science, but in the traditional cultures, it's already there very much. So the spiritual quotient, they are struggling with the definition of spiritual. They are struggling with the definition of spirit because they don't have a pramana like a Veda. They are trying to somehow, in a secular way, try to arrive at the definition of spiritual in a kind of a logical way, purely by analysis of human experience. Okay, it can take up to a certain point and only that much and not further, but it's okay, better than nothing. So the spiritual quotient, right? So that starts coming down. So everybody is valued. An individual, see, ultimately, there is the need for oneself being valued. It's more instinctive. It's closer to our animal nature than we valuing a virtue. Over and above my personal value to be able to think of something is not for all. Not all are capable of that. So, but everybody is capable of enjoying a personal value. Like, in the sense, if I am seen as important, that is something that I can understand. Right? I am important. I am cherished. I am wanted. So, I feel that whatever can make me important is important. This is a very instinctive thing that everybody will understand. Even a dog understands, nothing more than that. Yeah. So a cat understands. Animals get jealous. The jealousy and all that comes from this. So this is something that everybody can understand, right? So more and more, when a person is valued based on their possessions, based on their superficial looks, based on how exciting they are at the superficial level for the onlooker, based on what are their social circles and how much money they have, what brands they wear, what is their success level in the corporate ladder, how much power they command, how much of popularity they command. If an individual is valued based on these things, that's what is happening, and it is going to become more and more. The youngsters, they don't see any point in prioritizing virtue over personal gratification. This is a huge problem that has started and crept even inside Indian society. It is already gone. A lot of Western, lot of non-spiritual cultures in the West, and even in countries like Japan, I see that youth are okay. There are some traditional values and all that, but there are a lot of youth, they don't care. Gen Z or whatever. Many of them, they don't care. They don't understand. They don't know why they should follow virtue, because there are no perks, there is no reward. They understand, as a growing child, you understand only reward and punishment. So people are getting more and more hardwired. This term called hardwired means like your brain is, as a growing brain, you are tuned more for gratification, you are not tuned for virtue. So what happens, it becomes very impossible to learn to respect virtue over personal likes and dislikes. At a later stage in life, it becomes impossible. People start becoming more and more asuric, and the society starts becoming more and more asuric as we progress. So this is an inevitable fate in Kali Yuga. This is going to happen. It is happening. We cannot stop it. So what is very important is, as spiritual aspirants for ourselves and for our children and the next generation, we cannot transform the society, remember, but we can create bubbles. We can create virtue bubbles in small communities, in small groups, in communities, and we can create networks that value virtue, that reward virtue over these other superficial things, superficial temporary things, over personal gratification. Whenever, so as a child is growing, it is very important to be told, to be appreciated for doing the right thing. And whenever there is a overcoming of personal comfort to do what is appropriate and right, what is virtuous, when I know that needs to be rewarded immediately, and much more than how a normal superficial attainment would have been rewarded, right? So it becomes very important. For example, creativity is a virtue, right? Obedience is a virtue. But when it comes to learning, creativity in the context of learning, creativity is more important than obedience. Exploration and curiosity is more important than obedience. So the adults must tune themselves to appreciating curiosity and creativity in the children. But obedience becomes important in the context of personal discipline. So where that is the right place where obedience is given importance. So there are places where one value is important than other value. Sometimes there is a value conflict, which value should I follow in this situation? Should I follow this or that? For example, a very classic ethical dilemma is between non-violence and speaking the truth. So we have a old saying that says, even a lie is considered as truth if it relieves a situation of a very deep-seated chronic negative issue or a negative chronic problem. When a very deep-seated chronic problem is uh, cleared because of a lie, that lie is as good as truth. Or if it saves a person's life, saves an innocent person's life, a vulnerable innocent person's life is saved because of telling a lie, then that lie is considered as truth. This is something, பொய்மையும் வாய்மை இடத்த உரை தீர்ந்த நன்மை பயக்கும். So truth is always subject to non-violence, right? So when there is a conflict between truth or non-violence, non-violence takes precedence, takes priority over truth. And then the truth can be established and all that. So similarly, when a truth is to be expressed, it says satyam bruyat, hitam bruyat, priyam bruyat. Always speak the truth in an acceptable way. Don't slap a person's face with the truth. Don't don't tell the uncomfortable truth bluntly if it is not absolutely necessary. And at the same time, do not speak what is not true. It is also tied to non-violence, right? So like that, if you analyze, there are moments when virtues are in conflict, right? uh, there are one value versus other value, what to prioritize in a given moment. So there is a value conflict in many situations. So those times judgment becomes very difficult, and then there are some fundamental principles that govern that. So those things can be understood by, when we study our itihasas, puranas, especially like Ramayana and all that. If you study, there are various situations when you listen to discourses from saints and sages, and when you have satsanga and ask these questions and discuss with highly evolved people and with gurus, you will traditional gurus, you will understand more and more over a period of time how to prioritize the values whenever there is a conflict between two or three values. How to prioritize what is to be prioritized over what. But that kind of intelligence that we start developing. So this is all spiritual quotient. The reason for me starting this topic today is because couple of a couple of days back I heard the talk by a girl a young woman who is a director of a movie. I think a Gen Z director of a movie, a woman, a young woman. The movie is a very controversial movie right now. Came in Tamil. I think it will come in other languages also. It's not worth watching. It's a complete junk movie. That's what they say. But it has generated somehow a lot of controversy. So they generated controversy just for making the movie to get more viewers and to get money out of the movie. That's what is the analysis, industry analysis. That's what it says. So it's nothing great about the movie. But when the director was talking about why she made this character called the bad girl, okay, why she made this character. It's also some kind of a copy from some other English movie. Why she made this character? She said that women are told to be patnis, patni, like this virtue of chastity and the womanhood and the woman as a goddess. These cultural values and the virtues and the thing that women are supposed to live up to, It's too much. It's too much for us to bear. Why are you burdening us with all these huge, big concepts? We just want to be free, relaxed, and chill. These are all very difficult for us to bear. So I don't know. I don't want to, take this pressure. What if I just, I let go of all this pressure to be the ideal woman, and and just live my life. I just live my life. After all, we live only once. Life is only, we are going to live for once, and we are not going to come back. This is one thing that a lot of people keep repeating. We live only once. That is, it's like, there is no analysis or a big thing behind it. It is just a concept. It is called Epicurean. It's called, Charvaka. We already had this thousands of years back in our Sanatana Dharma, in Indian culture. We had this philosophy called Charvaka. You know, Ranam Kritva Gritam Pibed. You take a loan and have ghee. The sense, you eat comfortably and live comfortably and enjoy all the pleasures. Once you are dead, your body is going to be burnt, and who is going to come for the ashes? Right? So just drink, dance, enjoy, and have fun. You are going to die. You are not going to come back. That's it. So this is called Charvaka philosophy. It means very pleasant speech. Charvaka means very pleasant speech. It's very nice to hear because it's very comfortable. It is considered as one of the non-orthodox schools. Nastika darshanas. So they have a huge set of arguments. These current day atheists are nothing. These people had a very sophisticated logical system to establish their point of view. Right? So, this kind of talk is nothing new. They keep repeating, we only live once and all that. So because of all this lack of spiritual knowledge, so this girl says, why should I live up to all these expectations? Why should I carry this burden of ideal womanhood? So this girl chooses to drop all that and just live her life and have fun. Why not? I just wanted to see that. No, why not? Yeah. She asked this question. It sounds very valid. Oh, yeah, poor kids, already there is so much pressure. They have to get marks, they have to find a job, all that. The survival itself is such a huge thing. It is becoming more and more difficult. Why should we burden our kids with all these? Why should we burden ourselves? If you are young, you can ask yourself, why should we burden ourselves with all this virtue? Now, this is a question. It's a very valid question. And as adults and as spiritual teachers and as spiritual aspirants, first, we need to be clear about this. Why? Why should we take this burden? Virtue is a burden when you see from the point of view of comfort, personal likes and from the point of view of comfort, pleasure, and prosperity, name, fame, and things that you can instinctively, appreciate from your animal mind, from your instinctive person, from your instinctive ego. These are all. Of course, virtue is a burden. It doesn't pay at all, and it is going to pay you less and less to be virtuous. So why to follow virtue? I listened to this talk by the director, and then this huge question came. No, we never tell the children why to be virtuous. What are you getting out of it? Because prayojanam vina mando pina pravartade, they say in the beginning of Brahma Sutra commentary, inquiry into Brahman. Why should you inquire into the nature of the self? Why should you inquire into the true nature of God, Brahman, or whatever? Yeah. Why? What is the use? So that is the first discussion. Because without a relatable benefit, nobody wants to undertake a task. Even an idiot will not undertake a task if there is no benefit that he can relate to, either in fact or in his own fictional imagination. He has to some kind of perceive a benefit, to perceive some kind of a benefit in order to undertake a task. Because a task requires effort, and it requires grit and determination, and it is difficult, and you have to, it challenges your comfort zone. So any achievement, if I want to undertake, I need to have a relatable benefit that I can understand, an understandable benefit, a benefit that I can relate to. Yeah. So in this context, why should I be virtuous? Why should I pursue virtue? Why should I pursue dharma? This question is very important for each one of us to clarify oneself. So I want you to think for yourself. I don't want to give you immediate answers. Yeah, of course, I can give answers, but this is a very valid question. I don't know if you have uh, asked yourself this question. Sometimes we just blindly follow because of guilt. We feel uncomfortable. What they call in psychology as cognitive dissonance. We feel uncomfortable because we are doing something that we are programmed against. As we are programmed to see something as wrong. So we feel uncomfortable doing it. So if we are creating, like some philosophers said, everybody is just not every good man. Everyone is not doing something, committing a sin simply because he didn't have the opportunity. Everybody is good because they didn't get the opportunity to be bad. Somebody said that. It's all very cynical. So as dharma deteriorates at the collective level, one can become very cynical. And this question, to find answer to this question in each one of us, in our own hearts, becomes extremely important if you should not lose track in the socio-political, socio-psychological, and the socio-economic and spiritual challenges that are philosophical challenges that we are going to face in the coming years, both for ourselves and for our progeny and for the next generation. Yeah. So I will leave you all with this question. And now I will address one question. Somebody has pasted a question. When a particular virtue is being performed, the people around appreciating it leads to self-gratification and identification of self with it, making one do things relevant to it just for the sake of identity at times. How do one observe this situation? It's okay. As I told you, it is okay to start with that. That is natural. It is completely okay to accept that. This, you understand that you are doing it for it. This is your motivation. But if you are able to see that this is only a lower level of commitment to virtue, I am approaching that virtue in a rajasic way. I am, performing this dharma. I am committed to this virtue or dharma because I get appreciation. If I am recognizing that what you are doing now is a metacognition of your motivation. So if you are recognizing this, that my motivation is totally only for the sake of identity and for appreciation, you are able to see that. That means you have a higher intelligence already operating. You are seeing that I am having a more rajasic motivation. So over a period of time, you can try to see the inherent value in that virtue, even when nobody will appreciate me. Let us say, even at times when people will uh, slander me, people will talk bad about me, people could even, uh, treat me badly and censure me and talk negatively about me for following this virtue. People can hate me for following this virtue. Still, will I follow this virtue? That is the question you can ask yourself. And for that, what you need from that virtue? How do you need to understand that virtue? Because the pramana, again, we are coming back. This is where Shastra becomes extremely important. The scriptures are like the guiding light for the fundamental virtues. The exemplary people in our spiritual history, yad yad acharati shreshtaha, tad yad tad eva itaro janaha. Just like how those who are committed to the ultimate good, the saintly people, they act, that is what the normal people follow. Shreshtaha here not only means saint, the influential people, the popular people. Because Arjuna in Bhagavad Gita, Arjuna was not very saintly. He was just a Kshatriya. He was a king, but he was a hero, war hero. He was like one of the valorous, courageous person, a great warrior, probably one of the top warriors in the world at the time. So people look up to him. So when Krishna says, if you drop your bow and sit down and relinquish the battle simply because you don't want to hurt your uncles and grandfathers and teachers, then people will get wrongly inspired by your act. So you cannot set a wrong example. So he reminds him of his social commitment, to rise above his personal dilemma. right? So we have to, so there is this exemplary people. So people will look up to anybody who is a big shot. There are people who follow rock stars. That rock star may be a complete dharma, could be uh, dharmically a very poor person, but simply is popular, a lot of people follow. That is natural, it's natural. So what you have to do is, you can draw inspiration from the lives of people who follow that virtue. Whatever is the virtue that you are having a doubt about. Suppose that you understand that I am doing this virtue simply because I want people to appreciate me. When I recognize that I have a limitation in my understanding. It's okay, at least I'm having this, but this is an eternal value from what I have studied and what I have heard from the satsangs and everything. I have seen this as an eternal value. I understand this is an eternal value. I understand that I should have an intrinsic commitment for this, irrespective of how people treat me. Whether I am appreciated or not, I must have an instinctive. I understand this, right? So now that you have mentioned this means that you have an intrinsic understanding of it. So what you can do is you can study the lives of people who are committed to this virtue. Suppose if it is speaking the truth, life of Raja Harishchandra, for example, is a very inspiring story. And what the uh, saints and sages thought about it. If you see how the person lives, he goes through a lot of hardships, but then finally win. You know, and there is a lot, of appreciation for that. And there is also, for example, in Yama Niyama in yoga, Patanjali says what are the spiritual rewards of following the yamas and niyamas. One can go through that, following truth, Satya Pratishtayam, Ahimsa Pratishtayam. By being established in Satya, you get this. By being established in Ahimsa, you get this. Patanjali writes it. That's why he writes it. Because you should develop an intrinsic value for it. If I don't understand it by itself, then at least I understand it and appreciate it based on something else that I understand. You know? So, and also Patanjali tells it as a yardstick, as a measuring of how much is my commitment, how deeply this virtue has been cultivated in me, in order to understand that these rewards, the siddhis that come as a result of following this, will, it becomes like a yardstick to measure ourselves for appraising our commitment. Is there, it's not just for motivating. So some study of Shastra and trying, and as your spiritual understanding improves, obviously you will start developing an intrinsic value for virtue, because saintly people don't look for appreciation. So there is a way to develop a natural understanding. If you really understand what is the place of this virtue in the scheme of things, when you understand the big picture, the virtue gains its own rightful place, and you will start following it without looking for any appreciation or ego or any egoistic gratification out of it. So that is directly related to your spiritual understanding, your growth in your spiritual wisdom and understanding and chitta shuddhi. Yeah, so that's how it is. It comes over time. Don't. It cannot be immediately done. It comes over time as you become mature, as you become spiritual, as all the other aspects of your spiritual life starts improving, as your knowledge starts improving, and as the chitta shuddhi starts improving, your natural appreciation of a virtue, irrespective of rewards, will start developing by itself. Next question. Namaste. How to deal with feelings of regret about taking spirituality, trying to go on the spiritual path, practicing spiritual values, and aiming for virtuousness seriously, especially when we are not seeing any benefits of all of that. Yes, that's exactly what I was talking. That is where you need to contemplate and discuss about preyas and shreyas. In Bhagavad Gita also there is a discussion about that. Preyas is what is immediately relatable reward, that is very pleasing and comfortable, and the result is short-lived. Shreyas is something that is enduring and lasting, that is based on the fundamentals, something with strong fundamentals, always in any domain, it's not just in spirituality, even in business, for example, if you take stock market investment, to follow the fundamentals is very difficult. You have to shut up and be quiet when the market is volatile, not react to the market volatility. That every investor guru keeps saying that. Like Warren Buffett, they say, just stay quiet. Don't do anything when market is volatile. Maybe a little bit of asset reallocation, but don't react to market volatility. Over a period of time, it will average out. So always check your fundamentals and invest wisely and invest in the long term based on strong fundamentals, and just sit through the volatility. And whoever has made money over a long period of time in a sustained manner in stock market have gone through the volatile. But if you see, when the market is volatile, you see the discussions in all those commercial, the economic channels, business channels. A lot of talk back and forth, just to get media time, just to get TRP rating. Oh, the market is that is going up. Bitcoin is going up. Bitcoin is going down. Ethereum is going up. Oh, you'll have to, you have to buy this and sell that, and all this blah blah and all the drama around it. This is something that you will probably understand as a finance person, right? So even there, when you want to long-term benefit, you will have to sacrifice short-term comfort and benefit and short-term excitement. Every path, crash dieting and losing weight, or I have to going for, I'm a movie star, I'm going for a movie shooting, I have a special person. So, I have to lose weight. One of our Olympic athletes, wrestlers, she could not fight properly because there was too much pressure on her to lose weight in a very short period. Because of that, the person became very tired, becomes very volatile and things like that. So you loses the mental balance. There are side effects, right? So when you keep on doing crash dieting and losing a lot of weight for a movie, and then gain a lot of weight for another movie, then the health takes a beating. But if you really want to have an enduring fitness, you have to lose weight very gradually. You have to endure some ridicule for some time. You cannot say, I need to get ready for summer, and then you wake up at the end of March, I have to get the beach body. That is one, another obsession is going to come in another 2 months, getting the beach body for summer. Yeah. So, and then people go through that, and immediately they're going for a body, they want to look slim. So they take diuretics and remove water from the body to look slim. All this I have read about, and going on a high protein diet simply to lose the fat. These kind of things, you will get very fast results. Then there is side effect, and it's not nice. So any domain you take, enduring, long-lasting results without the side effects, for a lasting happiness, you will have to respect the fundamentals. You cannot compromise the fundamentals. So in the same way, when it comes to spirituality is something that goes life after life after life. When you are dead, I told in another class, even a broken needle without the ear of the needle, that is good for nothing, that needle which you cannot use for stitching, even that broken needle will not come with you when you leave this body. Only the punya and the papa, the good karma and the bad karma, and the impressions left by your actions, the virtue that you have developed inside you, the spiritual powers of concentration, of the evolution and the control over prana, and the spiritual samskaras that you have created into, the value for dharma that you have developed in your psyche, the level of sattva that you have gained in your mind, all that is going to come with you when you leave the body, and you will die one day for sure. So you will have to think about that. This life that we are living is only, it's a blink of an eye. When you see in the scale of time, if you see yourself as a soul that is evolving towards perfection, when you see yourself as a soul that is evolving towards perfection, for which this birth is only one station in the sequence of stations, when you think about that, then commitment to spirituality becomes effortless. And all these things that they are talking about, it is not going to, it will not have any deep value in you. You will respect money, you will know that money is necessary, you will know that health is necessary, but you will never place these things above spirituality. It's something like, for example, what you practice being a vegan. It is possible to have a great health and much easier to consume meat and have a nice looking body. but still you choose to be vegan with all the troubles that goes with it. Why? Because of, there is a value for non-violence, there is a value for ethical treatment of animals, there is a value for other life, respect for another life as much as you have for yourself, these kind of things. That is why they go through a lot of trouble, right? So, and it also has a benefit, a long-term benefit. It's good for the environment, it's good for oneself. There's so many angles to it. So similarly, when you are committed to spirituality, one of the most important things that you need to have shraddha upon is the continuity of life. You as a soul, as a jiva, you go from body to body. Shrotram chakshusparshanam cha rasanam ghranam cha yadishtaya manaschayam vishayanupasevati. It comes in the 15th chapter. Kramantam chitam vati vijnanam va gunanvitam. That comes, vayurgandhani vashayat. It comes, as the fragrance is carried from the flower by the wind. Like that, the soul leaves the body carrying with it all the inherent intrinsic impressions and all that. 15th chapter Bhagavad Gita, it talks about migration, right, of the soul. I'm not getting that verse now. I have to chant from the beginning. I don't want to bore you all the entire chanting. You can get it. 15th chapter Bhagavad Gita, this thing comes. So all the Shastras, all the saints and sages and yogis, they talk about this. Reincarnation is as much as a fact as incarnation. If you think you are an individual with a body, then reincarnation is as true as that. Okay? So when we learn to appreciate that, when you have some faith in the tradition and in the words of all the saints and sages, until we develop subtle perception. If you develop subtle perception with pranayama and other things, you can see that for yourself. You can exit your body, experience yourself as an individual without the body, go around and come back. These kind of things are possible, but it is not necessary. If you have shraddha, you don't have to go through all the practices. When you go through the practices of yoga, it promises certain results, certain siddhis and accomplishments. If you experience those accomplishments, from there you can logically, statistically project that how all the things they talk about subtle universe and everything could be true, because this is completely, something that you did not expect, right? So something like that. You can, when you see the pranic healing, there are a lot of pranic healers. You can do distant healing. Sitting here, you can heal another person. I myself have experienced that and seen the results. So because of all these things, when you look around and analyze a little bit, you will see there is enough evidence to support a subtle universe that survives the physical universe and continuity of life after death, which is completely dependent upon the quality of the mind and the prana and the impressions that you carry with you at the time of death. So that is a wonderful motivation to stick to the spiritual path, because none of the other things that any of the immediate benefits that are very alluring right now, none of that are going to come with you, but this will come with you. So you can respect the immediate benefits within the limit, where to the point where they are actually valuable, and not give them the excessive value that the current society is giving. So that is how I would deal with this, and please think about it. Okay, with this I will finish the class. The next question I will probably address in the next class. When we are not clear with the action, value conflict, shivering, shaking is experienced. Very good, very good. How to address this for immediate check of the moment to get back to track? It's a very good question. Unfortunately, there is no time today. But one thing that can help is pranayama. Just feel your feet. Okay, just feel your feet. Deep, slow breathing. Inhale deep and exhale. Inhale deep and fast while feeling your feet, and exhale gradually and slowly. And then while you are doing this, just feel your feet and do this. Don't forget about, just remember yourself. Just remember yourself without, beyond that action. Just say I am. When you say just pure sense of I amness in you, you do or not do, you still exist. You do this thing, there is a possibility. You do the other thing, there is a possibility. Whether you do or not do, behind both, you are there as a conscious being. Just tune to yourself as the conscious being while feeling your feet, and do slow deep breathing for a couple of minutes. All this agitation will stop. And then take a paper and write down action 1 and action 2, pros and cons, and get yourself clarified, or go into a conversation with somebody who is more mature than you. Then you make a decision, right? And you can always, you can just pray to your Ishtadevata, do your mantra a few times, and ask for the right guidance. These kinds of things will help. But to get rid of the shivering, the method I told you now is very useful. You can try that. Maybe more discussion we can do on this in the next class. Okay. So with this, I will complete the class. Om Purnamadah Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vasishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om Tapsate. Thank you.